Hello and welcome to the Professional Pricing Society's podcast. I am Lisa Fisher, Senior Director with Marketing and Communications with the Professional Pricing Society. Today, we will feature Prax Bhatia. He is the North America Pricing Director with LivaNova PLC. Today's topic of discussion is the Future Pricing Organization. Thanks for joining us, Prax, and we look forward to your expertise. If you would please briefly introduce yourself to our listeners, and we'll get started.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me here. So as you mentioned, I am the current North America Pricing Director for LivaNova, which is a medical device firm based in Houston, Texas. I have been in the pricing world for around 8 years. Worked mainly in medical device and pharmaceutical companies. Leading pricing from pricing strategy to pricing operations. And I'm also a CPP designated. That's a little bit about myself.
Awesome. So we're going to jump right in so our listeners can learn what your thoughts are. In your opinion, what is the future layout of the pricing organization for it to be successful?
Yeah, definitely. So what I've seen through my career experience and talking to other pricing leaders is that in the olden days, you had your pricing function that just looked at pure ASPs, prices, mix, kind of like a reporting type of structure. And we see that more evolving where, now within the pricing function, you create sub-functions such as you have your pricing operations, which would do mainly the reporting aspects of it. Then you have the strategic pricing that looks at new product pricing, working with marketing, with the sales, and how can we kind of increase revenue or find new revenue streams. And then you have where you have different pricing projects. So you have another team that mainly runs those projects, whether it's implementing a pricing software or implementing some sort of tools for the sales. So I tend to see a lot more of these sub-functions within the pricing world versus just having, a pricing organization that just deals with reporting, another separate function that deals with contracts. So you can tend to see a lot more sub-functions within a big pricing team.
Okay, awesome. And where should the pricing organization reside, in your opinion, for it to continue to be successful?
Yeah, so this is just from my experience speaking to others as well, but I know it depends on organization. But in my career, I've been in part of finance, I've been part of marketing, sales operations, strategy, where I've seen it more effective, because depending on where it is, the way you engage with your various customers, whether it's sales, marketing, depending on the function you are in, differentiates. Where I've seen it more, where the sales tend to listen a little bit more, is when you're part of a sales operations, and the reason is because in sales ops, they calculate the compensation for the sales team. So they're more inclined to kind of listen, and you can actually build a much quicker engagement and relationship with the sales team, versus whether you're in marketing, finance, you now have to prove a little bit more of yourself as why you're a valuable partner. So there's a little bit more work in the other functions versus being a part of sales ops. That's where I've seen the difference. So if my recommendation is the pricing team can actually be part of sales operations, I think you would have at least have some of your battle already won.
And this is kind of an offshoot of that question. In the organization where pricing was a part of sales, was that a decision that was made at the C-suite level, or was that a decision that was kind of left to the departments that were kind of working in those arenas?
I think when I was part of sales operation, it was a combination of the senior leadership and the function. So collectively seen where the benefits would be, and where it made sense as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to technologies. With new technologies on the horizon, how does that translate for the pricing organizations?
So with a lot of new technologies out there, I've tend to leverage, kind of adopting them and, seeing where it's viable. Predictive analytics, machine learning is definitely a big buzzwords that we hear. And I think as part of pricing, it's something that we should look at. I have used predictive analytics in terms of what I've seen is that supply chain will predict, forecast, products down the line. Many times the process they use or the science that they use is not it's not the best, I would say. And I think if pricing can actually be involved in these things, I think we can provide a lot of leverage. And there are many tools out there that within the pricing function can actually utilize. But the tools like Tableau and all that do have some of these technology already built in that you can actually predict. And I think, and it actually helps to validate whether supply chain and finance, what are they forecasting? Is it in line with what you actually see? And I think the more we can get involved as they're making those decisions, and pricing has never, in my career, I've never been involved in these type of decisions, and I think it would be great. So I think if you can leverage these new technologies, as you're building various tools, in your own function.
Mm-hmm. So that is a segue into my final question for you, Prox, is with competitive analytics still kind of siloed within organizations, how can the pricing organization leverage the competitive intelligence?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, prior to LivaNova, the other three organizations I've been in, competitive intelligence was very siloed. Everyone has some sort of information, but nothing was centralized. So then there was no transparency, there was no communication. And I'm a very big believer of understanding our competition. And what I've seen now companies doing is that they're going out and hiring maybe one person to do just competitive intelligence, but it's still not enough. And I think it's the responsibility and unfortunately the ownership from a pricing function to take that ownership to lead. So in all organization that I have been in, I have worked to take the lead on competition, whether it's trying to find where the data is within internally and kind of bring it together, centralize it, centralize information, make sure it's transparent and there is there's some sort of action and and the messaging is there. But I've always seen that it always came to the pricing function to drive that. If we don't drive it from a pricing function, it never happens, and it will always be siloed. And many companies are recognizing that. I've gone to many of the pricing conferences and I've seen that there is no one function that does competitive intelligence. And so what I've always looked at within the pricing function is to carve another little function, which is competition, and actually go hire a competitive intelligence analyst. That way, it's all under the pricing umbrella. And I see that if we can take the charge and lead it, we will see it come to fruition. And I'm also doing that right now in LivaNova. Similar thing. We don't have competition is all over the place, siloed. Is how do we centralize it? And the knowledge is with the sales team, with the marketing team, and typically competition is always looked at the last thing. It's never a forefront, similar to pricing. And I see more and more that's a future that's I think that people are recognizing, similar to how they recognize pricing was important as a function. I think now everyone is similar to now competitive intelligence now being that.
Excellent. Any other thoughts, Prox, that you would like to give to our listeners on the future pricing organization? Anything else you'd like to share?
I think if anyone out there is looking to build a pricing function or figuring out where is the best, it's to make sure you're talking to your sales team, your senior leadership, and to see where, because there's so many battles that we have to fight, is where can you leverage, where can you win the battle more? So whether if you think being part of sales operation works because you some of the battles have already been won, that way you can build other relationship because it's so much to do. So definitely talking to your senior leadership where it makes sense. I'm doing that also right now where I see a contracts team outside of pricing where I can see and sometimes the contracts team needs to be part of the pricing function. So end of the day, we need to think about transparency, communication, simplicity. are we making our business simple for our sales team? And so if we can take leadership as a pricing function, I think that will go a long way.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, Prox, for joining us and sharing your insight on the Future Pricing Organization. Please visit our website, pricingsociety.com, for additional information on all of the Professional Pricing Society's offerings. Also, PPS is headed to Dallas, Texas for our 29th annual Fall Pricing Workshops and Conference, October 22nd through the 26th, where Prox will join us and be a featured breakout speaker in our Pricing Experts track, where he can answer additional questions that you may have. Also, get social with the Professional Pricing Society and subscribe to our blog, thepricingauthority.com, and follow us on Twitter at Pricing Society. Please stay tuned for our monthly pricing podcast, where other industry experts will join us to share their pricing. Prox, we'll see you in Dallas, and thanks again for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.